Hey everyone, I welcome you to this session by Simplilearn. In this session, we shall make sure that you get to know about all the important Selenium interview questions that you might be asked in your upcoming Selenium interview. Selenium tester or Selenium developer is one of the most popular jobs in DevOps domain. According to iData Labs, a research company which uses data to provide industry insights, found that nearly 31% of software testing tools market belonged to Selenium in the year 2018. The stats tell a lot about how preferred Selenium is all across the world. Selenium skills are highly in demand as the automation testing market goes on increasing. Professionals with these skills are hard to find, so there are ample amount of jobs in the market for skilled candidates. Companies are even willing to go beyond the industry norms for compensating their Selenium testers, provided they have the required certifications and experience. The median salary of Selenium testers in the UK currently falls in the range of £40,000 per annum to £65,000 per annum. The average salary of a Selenium automation tester in the US is around $97,500 per annum. If we talk concerning India, the average salary of a Selenium tester is 19 lakhs per annum, and the salary of a Selenium professional falls between 1 million per annum to 4.2 million rupees per annum. This variation in salary depends on various factors such as job location, experience, education, employer, certifications, and many more. The salary trends give a great idea of what you can expect from the career. So now when we know at what great height is the demand of Selenium in the market, let's go on and check the top 50 Selenium interview questions. But before we begin, make sure that you have subscribed to our YouTube channel and hit that bell icon so that you can never miss an update from Simplilearn. We have divided the questions into 3 parts depending on the level of difficulty. Okay, without further ado, let's get started with our first part, that is the beginner level interview questions. So the first question is, what is the main purpose of Selenium? So the answer for this question is, Selenium is an open source automated testing tool used to test web applications across various browsers. Desktop and mobile apps cannot be tested using Selenium. However, other tools like HP's QTP and Appium can be used to test software and mobile applications. It is a cloud-based testing platform that allows testers to record their actions and export them. Selenium enables parallel test execution, which increases the efficiency of tests. Selenium can test web applications against browsers like Firefox, Opera, Chrome, and Safari, to name a few. The test code can be written in various programming languages like Java, Perl, Python, and PHP. Selenium is platform independent and can be deployed on different operating systems like Windows, Linux, and Macintosh. Selenium can be integrated with third-party software tools like JUnit and TestNG for test management. Selenium is not just a single tool but a suite of software, each with different approach to support automation testing. It comprises of 4 major components, which include Selenium Integrated Development Enterprise, Selenium Remote Control, now deprecated, WebDriver, and finally Selenium Grid. Now moving on to the next question. What do you understand by automation testing? Automation testing uses automation tools to write and execute test cases. In this case, no manual involvement is needed for executing an automated test suite. Testers prefer automation tools to write test scripts and test cases and then group them into test suites. Automation testing enables the use of specialized tools to automate the execution of manually designed test cases without any human intervention. Automation testing tools may access the test data, control the execution of tests, and compare the actual result against the expected result, and finally, generating detailed test reports of the system under test. Now, the third question is, What are the advantages of automation testing? This is one of the most asked interview questions in any automation testing job. Some of the advantages of automation testing are: the tool supports both performance and functional testing. It supports the execution of parallel test cases. It enables parallel execution in the combination of different operating systems and browser environments. There is minimal manual intervention and test scripts can be run unattended. This reduces the chances of human errors. There is reusability of code, that is, create one time and execute multiple times with less or no maintenance. Automation testing saves time and money and is faster in execution. In automation testing, there are easy reporting, which means it generates automatic reports after execution. It is easy for compatibility testing and is cheaper compared to manual testing in the long run. Automated testing is more reliable, more powerful, and versatile. Automation tools allow us to integrate with cross-browser testing tools, Jenkins, GitHub, etc. It is mostly used for regression testing and supports execution of repeated test cases. Now moving on to the fourth question. What is the difference between Selenium 2.0 and Selenium 3.0? Selenium 2 is nothing but integration of WebDriver with Selenium RC or Selenium 1. Selenium 1 is a well-established framework that supports various browsers due to its JavaScript implementation. The strengths of both the Selenium WebDriver and Selenium 1 are combined in Selenium 2, which makes it obvious that the drawbacks were earlier there will no longer be there in 2.0. On the other hand, in the case of Selenium 3.0, Selenium 3.0 can be referred to as an extended version of Selenium 2.0, solving bugs and increasing stability. The big chance in the Selenium 3.0 is the core being replaced by backend WebDriver. It won't be wrong to say that Selenium 3 would majorly be the choice of software testing tool for both web and mobile-based applications. Now moving ahead onto the fifth question. What are the testing types supported by Selenium? So the answer for this question is testing types that can be supported by Selenium are as follows: functional testing, regression testing, retesting, acceptance testing, end-to-end testing, smoke testing, sanity testing, responsive testing, cross-browser testing, UI testing, integration testing, and many more. Moving on to the next question. What are the different Selenium suite components? So the answer for this question is there are 4 components in Selenium suite. First is the Selenium Remote Control or Selenium RC. Selenium Remote Control enables the writing of automated web applications in languages such as Java, C#, etc. It is hardly in use today as the WebDriver offers more powerful functionalities. The second is the Selenium Grid. Selenium Grid enables the running of tests in parallel on several machines. The commands are routed to the remote web browser instances and one server acts as the hub. The hub is responsible for conducting several tests on multiple machines. The third is the Selenium IDE. Selenium IDE needs no additional setup except installing the extension on your browser. The IDE makes the test debugging easier with features like setting breakpoints and pausing exceptions. And the last and the fourth tool in the suite is Selenium WebDriver. Selenium WebDriver is the most critical component of the Selenium tool suite that allows cross-browser compatibility testing. The WebDriver supports various operating systems like Windows, Mac, Linux, Unix, etc. Now let's go on further and check the next question. What are the different programming languages, browsers, and operating systems supported by Selenium? So the answer for this question is Selenium supports various programming languages to write test code with language-specific drivers that offer commands from the Selenium API. The common languages used by testers to write Selenium code are C#, Java, Perl, PHP, Python, and Ruby. Java is the favorite language for use with Selenium 1 and 2, but the ease of using Python and Ruby has led to many testers opting for these languages as well. So moving on to the next part of the question, which deals with the browsers supported by Selenium. The main reason for Selenium's popularity is the wide and comprehensive list of features available on the platform. With Selenium, test execution remains seamless on just about all available web browsers. To name a few, we have Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Internet Explorer, Opera, Safari, and Edge. So now let's talk with respect to operating systems that could be integrated with Selenium. Selenium enables creating and testing suites on any platform and executing their test cases on different one. For example, the tester could write test cases using Windows operating system and then run them on a Linux-based operating system. So, to name a few, Selenium can support Android, iOS, Windows, Linux, Mac, and Solaris. Now let's go on and see the next question. What are the advantages of WebDriver over Selenium RC? So the answer for this question is WebDriver is faster in comparison to Selenium RC because of its simple architecture. The WebDriver can directly communicate to the browser while Selenium RC needs the RC servers to help to do so. WebDriver API is more concise than Selenium RC and can support HTML unit while Selenium RC cannot. Selenium WebDriver tool is used for automating web application testing to verify that it works as expected or not. It mainly supports browsers like Firefox, Chrome, Safari, and Internet Explorer. It also permits you to execute cross-browser testing. The next question here is, why testers choose Selenium over QTP? So the answer for this question is, Selenium is an open source tool and it is specifically designed to test web-based applications. In Selenium, we can execute tests when a browser is minimized, whereas in QTP, we need to have an application under test to be visible on the desktop. In Selenium, multiple cases can be executed in parallel, unlike QTP, where we can execute only one test at a time. There are several browsers supported by Selenium, while QTP just supports Internet Explorers on Windows. Selenium supports mobile devices like Android, iPhone, BlackBerry, Headless WebKit, whereas on the other hand, QTP uses a commercial product for mobile app test automation, that is HP UFT Mobile. Selenium supports different programming languages while QTP supports only Visual Basic Script, and also Selenium has zero maintenance cost as it is open source, whereas QTP has a license and annual maintenance charges. So now these were the few reasons why testers mainly choose Selenium over QTP. Now moving ahead into our next question, what is the use of XPath? So the answer for this question is, XPath is a Selenium technique used to navigate through the HTML structure of a web page. It uses a non-XML syntax to provide a way of pointing to different parts of an XML document. It can also be used to test addressed nodes within a document to determine whether they match a pattern or not. While other locators in Selenium that search for elements using tags or CSS class names are simpler to use, they may not be sufficient to select all DOM elements of the HTML document. The primary purpose of XPath is to address parts of the XML document. Now moving on to the next question, how can you locate a web element in Selenium? So the answer is, Selenium uses locators to locate and identify web elements. There are different types of locators in Selenium. Some of the locators are mentioned here. The first type of XPath locator is the ID. The best and the most popular method to identify web elements is to use ID, and obviously each element's ID is definitely unique. The second type is the class name. In this case, the class name of the element is used to find the element. The third type is the link test, where the text of the link is used to find the element. All the hyperlinks on a web page can be identified using link text. The links on the web page can be determined with the help of anchor tag. The anchor tag is used to create the hyperlinks on the web page, and the text between the opening and closing of anchor tags constitutes the link text. Then comes the XPath locator that uses the name of the element to find that particular element. The other type of XPath locator is the XPath. This is required to find the dynamic element and to traverse between different elements of the web page. The last type of XPath locator is the CSS path. It locates the elements to have no class, name, or ID. Now moving ahead into the next question. Name the different types of WebDriver APIs. So the answer for this question is the WebDriver API refers to the standard that abstracts out the device or browser-specific bindings from the developer so that the test script can be written in any programming language and run on many different browsers via a WebDriver. The different types of WebDriver API in Selenium are Android driver, Chrome driver, Event Firing WebDriver, Firefox driver, HTML unit driver, Internet Explorer driver, iPhone driver, iPhone simulator driver, remote web driver. Now moving ahead into the next question. What does a / signify in XPath? And what is the difference between single and double slash? The answer for this question is the XPath syntaxes are path expressions that are used for addressing into a document. Slashes are used to create XPath with an absolute or relative path. XPath uses path expressions to select nodes in an XML document. There are two cases. One is the single slash, where the other is the double slash. Single slash creates XPath with an absolute path, which means that the XPath would be made to begin selecting from the start node. Double slash, on the other hand, creates XPath with a relative path, which means that XPath would be made to begin selecting from anywhere in the document. Now moving on to the next question. Explain absolute XPath and relative XPath. So the answer for this question is absolute XPath starts from the root node and ends at the desired descendant elements node. It starts with the top HTML node and ends with the input node. It starts with a single / as we discussed in the previous question. While on the other hand, the relative XPath begins from the middle of the HTML DOM structure. Relative XPath starts from any node in between the HTML page and the current elements node, and it starts with a double /. Then the other point of consideration is the difference in the drawback in the case of absolute XPath is that if there are any chances in the elements path, then XPath will fail. And in the case of relative XPath, it enables writing from the middle of the HTML DOM structure without any need to write the long XPath. We can see the syntax of the two absolute XPath and relative XPath on screen, and we can notice the difference in the slashes in case of both of them. Now moving on to the next question. Name some automation tools that can be integrated with Selenium to achieve continuous testing. Selenium can be integrated with several automation tools. Some of them are Maven, Jenkins, Docker, TestNG, JUnit, iPhone driver, iPhone simulator driver, remote web driver. Now moving on to the next question. Differentiate between verify and assert commands. Assets and verify methods are commonly used in Selenium for verifying or validating applications. If the assert condition is true, then the program control will execute the next step, but if the condition is false, then the execution will stop and further test steps will not be executed. Whereas in the verifying condition, there won't be any pause in the test execution even though the verify condition is true or false. There are two different types of assets, the hard asset and the soft asset, while there are no categories in case of verification. The hard asset condition throws an exception immediately after the asset fails and carries out with the next case of the suit. On the other hand, while the soft asset condition does not throw an exception immediately when the assertion fails, collects them and carries out with the next validation. Now moving on to the next question. What are the different types of JUnit annotations which are used in Selenium? JUnit annotation is a special form of syntactic metadata that could be added to Java source code for better code readability and structure. Annotations were introduced in JUnit 4, which makes the Java code more readable and simple. The different types of JUnit annotations are test, before, after class, after class, ignore, run with. Now the next question in the docket is, how is TestNG better than JUnit? TestNG and JUnit are both open source frameworks supported by Selenium WebDriver. TestNG is a testing framework based on JUnit and NUnit to simplify a broad range of testing needs from unit testing to integration testing. There are more functionalities added to TestNG, which makes it more powerful than JUnit. TestNG enables dependency testing, which isn't there in JUnit. Now moving on to the next question. What are the different types of Selenium frameworks? The Selenium framework is what makes code maintenance easy and efficient. Without frameworks, users might place the code and data simultaneously, which is neither reusable nor readable. There are beneficial outcomes of frameworks like increased code reusability, higher portability, reduced script maintenance cost, better code readability, and many more. There are three types of frameworks created by Selenium WebDriver to automate manual test cases. The first type is data-driven. The data-driven framework in Selenium refers to the method of separating datasets from the test case. Then, the second framework is the keyword-driven framework. This framework is a method used for speeding up automated testing by separating keywords for common sets of functions and instructions. Then the third framework is the hybrid framework, where we utilize the advantages of both the keyword-driven framework as well as data-driven framework. Now let's move on to the next question. What is data-driven and keyword-driven? Data-driven framework is based on several datasets generated in external file and then imported to the automation testing tool. Hence, test data is generated from external files like Excel, CSV, or XML. The datasets are separate from the original script from which the required input may be fetched. Let's check on what is keyword-driven framework now. The idea behind the keyword-driven approach in automation is to separate the coding from the test case and test step. This helps a non-technical person to understand the automation very well. The instructions required to perform the operation are written in an external file like Excel sheet, which keeps most of the data, and keyword-driven, which is needed for the test like test case, test steps, test objects, and actions. The functionalities to be tested can be easily controlled by the users. So this was all about the beginner's level of interview questions. Now let's go on further and check some intermediate level of interview questions that might help you take a step further in your preparation. Now the 21st question is, what is Selenium WebDriver? So the answer for this question is, Selenium WebDriver is the most important component of the Selenium tool suite. The WebDriver allows cross-browser compatibility testing and supports various operating systems like Windows, Mac, Linux, Unix, and etc. It also provides compatibility with a range of languages including Python, Java, Perl, Ruby, etc. The WebDriver provides support for many different browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Opera, etc. and provides faster execution of the test scripts compared to other tools. The next question is, what is the need of Selenium WebDriver? So the answer for this question is, Selenium WebDriver provides a very user-friendly interface that could be easily understood. WebDriver is a programming interface that helps create and run test cases. It makes provision to act on web elements. The WebDriver has many other features in comparison to Selenium RC and Selenium IDE. Now moving on to the next question. How is the Selenium WebDriver different from Selenium RC and Selenium IDE? Selenium WebDriver is an open source collection of APIs which is used to test web applications. The Selenium WebDriver tool is used for automating web application testing to verify that it works as expected or not. Unlike the Selenium IDE, Selenium WebDriver can work with many different browsers. Then, the WebDriver does not require the user to start the server as in case of Selenium RC. Selenium WebDriver is an API and not a graphical user interface based plugin or a standalone Java application. In Selenium WebDriver, all the APIs are entirely object-oriented in nature. Unlike the other tool, in addition to that, Selenium WebDriver supports listeners, otherwise whose implementation is not supported. The WebDriver also supports iOS and Android testing, which is not supported by RC and IDE. Now let's move on to the next question. What is the architecture of Selenium WebDriver? Selenium WebDriver architecture in a simplified diagram is shown on the screen. Selenium WebDriver API enables interaction between browsers and browser drivers. This architecture consists of 4 layers, namely the Selenium language bindings, JSON via protocol, browser drivers, and real drivers. Selenium language bindings consists of languages like Java, Ruby, Python, C#, and so on. After the test cases are triggered, entire Selenium code will be converted to JSON format. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It takes up the task of transferring information from the server to the client. JSON via protocol is primarily responsible for the transfer of data between HTTP servers. Generated JSON is made available to browser drivers through HTTP protocol. Each browser has a specific browser driver. Browser drivers interact with their respective browsers and execute the commands by interpreting JSON received from the browser. As soon as the browser driver gets any instructions, they run them on the real driver or browsers. The response is given back in the form of the HTTP response. Moving forward to the next question, that is the 25th question. What are the drawbacks of Selenium WebDriver? Selenium WebDriver does not support testing for desktop applications. It requires the expertise of team and resources to manage. No inbuilt reporting capability. Test reports are generated with the help of plugins like JUnit and TestNG, and also requires a lot of maintenance, and it is difficult to scale. If you want to get the technical issues resolved, one must trust the community forums. In Selenium WebDriver, testing of images is not possible. For testing of images, integration of Selenium with Sickly is needed. The next question is, how does Selenium Grid works? So the answer for this question is, Selenium Grid is a smart proxy server that makes it easy to run tests in parallel on multiple machines. This is done by routing commands to remote web browser instances where one server acts as the hub. The hub is responsible for conducting several tests on multiple machines. Now moving on to the next question. What are some of the common exceptions in Selenium WebDriver? The answer is, automation code execution usually may not carry out as expected due to many factors involved in execution, such as network stability issues, internet issues, server stability, etc. We might get exceptions due to insufficient waiting time or incorrect syntaxes, parameters, etc. Some of the most common exceptions are no such element exception, no Windows exception, no such frames exception, no alert present exception, invalid selector exception, element not visible exception, element not selectable exception, timeout exception, no such session exception. Now moving on to the next question. What is the difference between type and typeAndWait command? So the answer for this question is, the two commands type and typeAndWait command have their own specific purpose. The purpose of type command is to type keyboard key values in the text box. The command can be used to select the value of combo box. whereas the typeAndWait command is used when the typing is completed and the web page starts loading. The command waits for the software application page to reload. Now the next question. What is the difference between findElement and findElements in Selenium? Here, the findElement command is used to identify a web element within a web page. It returns the first web element that matches the search in case there are multiple elements and throws an exception called no such elements exception if the element is not found. Whereas the findElements command is used to identify a list of web elements within a page. It returns the list of elements that match more than one element and does not throw an exception, but returns an empty list if there are no matching elements. Now moving on to the next question. What is meant by wait in Selenium? How many types of waits are there in Selenium? The wait functions are very essential when it comes to executing Selenium tests. They help in observing and troubleshooting the issues that may occur due to variation in long time. In automation testing, wait commands direct the test execution to pause for a certain length of time before moving on to the next step. There are two types of wait commands. They are the implicit wait and the explicit wait. First, we will learn the implicit wait. Implicit waits tell the WebDriver to wait for a certain amount of time before it throws an exception. Once we set the time, WebDriver will wait for the element based on the time we set before it throws an exception. The default setting is 0. We need to set some wait time to make WebDriver to wait for a required time. Now we will learn about the explicit wait. The explicit wait in Selenium is used to tell the WebDriver to wait for a certain condition or maximum time exceeded before throwing an exception, that is the element not visible exception. Moving on to the next question. What is the biggest disadvantage of implicit wait? The main disadvantage of the implicit wait is that it slows down the test performance. WebDriver will wait for some specific amount of time before it throws an exception. For example, if you set the waiting time to be 10 seconds and the elements appear in the DOM in 11 seconds, your test will fail because you told to wait for a maximum of 10 seconds only. Now moving on to the next question. What are the type of navigation commands? So the different types of navigation commands are the first one, driver.navigate to URL. This navigates to the provided URL. Then comes driver.navigate.refresh. This method refreshes the current page. The third command is the driver.navigate.forward. This method does the same operation as clicking on forward button of any browser. It neither accepts nor returns anything. Last navigation command is the driver.navigate.back. This method does the same operation as clicking on the back button of any browser. It neither accepts nor returns anything. Moving on to the next question. What is meant by same origin policy and how is it handled? Same origin policy is a feature taken for security purposes. According to this policy, a web browser enables the access of scripts from one web page to the other if both the pages have same origin. The origin policy protects a malicious script on one page to access sensitive data on another. Followed by this, we have the next question. What is Selenium and how is it classified? Selenium is a set of Selenium commands which are used to test your web application. Testers can test the broken links, the existence of some objects on the UI, Ajax functionality, alerts on window, list options, and a lot more using Selenium. Selenium commands tells the Selenium automation engine to perform certain tasks. Selenium can be classified into a set of three types of commands, which are action, accessors, and assertions. Moving ahead, we have the 35th question. What is the difference between driver.close method and driver.quit method? So the answer for this question is, the driver.close command is used to close the current browser window. If there are multiple windows open on the screen, then the one on focus will be closed. Whereas the driver.quit command is also used for the same purpose. If there are multiple browser windows open on the screen, then the command closes all of them at once. Moving ahead, we have the advanced level of interview questions. Now we are done with the intermediate level of Selenium interview questions. Let's now buckle up a little more and learn the advanced level of interview questions. The first question in this category is, how do you type text in an input box using Selenium? The method used to type text in input boxes is send keys. The send keys method allows typing automatically into an editable field during the execution of any tests. These fields are web elements that can be identified using locators like element ID, name, class name, etc. Now moving on to the next question, how to click on a hyperlink in Selenium. The command used to click on the hyperlink uses link text to find the element. The command finds the element using link text and then clicks on the element, whereafter the user would be redirected to the corresponding page. You can find the syntax of the command on the screen. Moving on to the next question, how to scroll down a page using JavaScript. The method used to scroll down to a page is scroll by. We can see the syntaxes of a set of commands. The first syntax, that is the execute script here, is the general syntax for scroll by command. Then the second syntax of JavaScript executor is create a JavaScript object. Then the third syntax, driver.get, is the syntax of launching the desired application. Then the last syntax, that is the js.execute script, is for the scroll down to the desired location. Moving forward, we have the next question. What is the way of typing in a text box without using send keys? The text can be entered into a text box by using JavaScript executor. The commands that could be used for the process can be seen on the screen. You can use JavaScript executor and jsa.execute script for the work to be done. Now moving forward, we have the next question. How to select a value from a drop-down in Selenium WebDriver. For selecting and deselecting from a drop-down in Selenium WebDriver, select class is used. The objects of select type can be initialized by passing the drop-down web element as a parameter to its constructor. The syntax of the commands can be seen on the screen. The web element test drop command and the command to select the drop-down. Here, the WebDriver offers three ways to select from a drop-down box. The first way is to select by index, that is, the selection is based on index starting from 0. Then comes select by value, that is, selection based on value. The last way is select by visual text, that is, selection of option that displays text matching the given argument. The next question is, what is the use of switch to command? The answer for this question is, the switch to command is used to switch between windows, frames or pop-ups within the application. Every window instantiated by the WebDriver is given a unique alphanumeric value called window handle. We can see the syntax of commands on the screen. The first command, that is the string handle command, is used to get the window handle of the window you wish to switch to, and then the driver.switch to command is used to switch to the desired window. The next question is, what is meant by object repository in Selenium WebDriver? An object repository is a common storage location for all objects. If we talk in the context of Selenium WebDriver, these objects would typically be the locators used to identify web elements uniquely. For example, if there is a chance in one web element's locator value, then only the object repository has to be changed instead of all the test cases. The object repositories have to be built in Selenium WebDriver using the key value pair approach. The two types of object repositories may be created in Selenium WebDriver are, the first one, object repository using properties file, and the next one, object repository in XML. Moving ahead, we have the 43rd question, How to upload a file in Selenium WebDriver. To upload a file in Selenium WebDriver, the send keys or robot class method are used. The initial step is to first locate the text box and then set the file path using send keys method and click on submit. The syntax for the command can be seen on the screen. The first syntax of the web-element command is used to locate the browse button. Then the second syntax of the browse.sendKeys is used to pass the file path to be uploaded using sendKeys method. Moving on to the next question, what is the way to set browser window size in Selenium? So the answer for this question is, the window size can be maximized, set or resized. To maximize the window, we use the driver.manage.window.maximize method or command. And then to set the window size, we can use dimension d is equals to new dimension, wherein the brackets we give the dimensions we want to set the size. Now moving on to the next question, how can you debug tests in Selenium IDE? The steps to debug the tests in Selenium IDE are, the first step is to insert a breakpoint from the place you want to execute your test. Then execute the test case. After the test case has started executing, the execution will pause at the breakpoint. Then click on the blue button with the next statement to continue, and finally click on the run button to execute all the commands. Moving ahead, we have the next question. How to insert a breakpoint in Selenium IDE? The steps to insert a breakpoint in Selenium IDE are, the first step is to go into the Selenium IDE, right click on the command and select toggle breakpoint. Then select the command and press the B key on the keyboard. Post that, to clear the breakpoint, press B key again. And multiple breakpoints can be set up in the Selenium IDE. Moving forward, we have the next question. What is a pause on an exception in Selenium IDE? So the answer for this question is, the pause on an exception is a feature that is used to handle exceptions in Selenium IDE. The feature can be used by clicking on the pause button on the right top corner of the IDE window. The execution stops when an exception is encountered and the script enters to the debug mode, so the entire test does not fail and the error can be resolved. Moving forward, we have the 48th question. What can result in the failure of Selenium IDE? So the answer for this question is, Selenium IDE is one of the most accessible record and play tools in the Selenium tool suite, which requires no particular setup. The Selenium IDE comes with a very rich set of commands powered by Selenium and allows us to record and test different web application interactions with the browser. But then there are certain times when the Selenium IDE might fail. Some of those instances are when Selenium cannot locate the element if the locator has changed. Then one more such instance is when the element to be accessed cannot be found on the web page and operation is timed out. And one more case is when the element being tried to access is not created. For finding if the link is broken or working fine, we use the driver.get method. When we use driver.get method to navigate to a URL, it will respond with a status of 200 OK. 200 OK denotes that the link is working and it has been obtained. If any other status is obtained, then it indicates that the link is broken. Some of the HTTP status codes are 200, that indicates it's a valid link. 404 indicates link not found. 400 indicates bad request. 401 indicates unauthorized. And finally 500, that indicates internal error. And now we are at the last question. How to log into any site if it is showing an authentication pop-up for username and password? So the answer for this question is, to handle authentication pop-ups, we need to verify its appearance and then handle them using an explicit wait command. The syntax of the explicit wait command to be used is on the screen. That is, the first syntax, WebDriver wait syntax. The second syntax is the alert equals to wait dot until refers to the use of alert class to verify the alert. And the last syntax is alert.authenticate, that is there to provide the credentials after the verification in the previous step. And this is all for this session. I hope that after going through these Selenium interview questions, you would have understood what kind of questions can be asked in your interview and how you could approach them in the best possible manner. Signing off on this note, subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more from Simplilearn.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.